pretty sure most of you guys know anybody who's depressed, whether it be a friend or a family member. But today I wanted to talk to you guys about antidepressants and whether they have good effects, bad effects, the facts and whatnot. Today people are affected by depression, and the question comes up to what exactly is depression? There's a lot of types of depression. There's actually 7 types, but I only got 6 of them so far. So I just wanted to read them off to you real quick. There's major depression disorder, which is a combination of symptoms, whether it affects your sleep, you can't think right, or it just affects your day in general. There's dysthynthic disorder depression, which is a little bit less severe, but it's more long-term. So it's like in the course of 2 years, you will have that depression. There's psychotic depression, which is accompanied by psychosis, which is like a break of reality, which you don't know what's going on and whatnot. And there's seasonal affective disorder, which is again another depression, which is seasonal, whether it be the weather that can change your mood. Whether it's like sunny outside, you can be happy, or if on a rainy day, like you just get sad because of the weather. And then there's the most common one, which is bipolar disorder. And it affects a lot of Americans today. But another question which arises, which is why are they prescribed? 1 out of 10 Americans today are diagnosed with depression. So if you do the numbers, that's quite a lot. 1 out of 4 of women suffer from depression. So that's like 25% of women of 100, they suffer from depression. Also, 2.6 Americans suffer from bipolarism, and which therefore leads to 1 out of 10 Americans taking antidepressants. So we see how there's a lot of people that are taking antidepressants today. How they actually work? Well, usually when you have depression, there are low levels of serotonin in your brain. Therefore, in the synapse, it is associated with depression because it increase. My bad, guys. The cause of depression is due to low levels of serotonin and another brain hormone, which is called norepinephrine. And what these antidepressants do, they level those chemicals in your brain. That way you can have a normal thought process, because serotonin promotes more of a happy outlook in your brain and whatnot. Also, that all these antidepressants, they influence your neurotransmitters, especially with, like I said, serotonin and norepinephrine. As you can see in the graph right here, you can see how that works. Whether the receptors are receiving the actual chemicals and whatnot. And that's just basically how it works. But there's always repercussions with these drugs. Unfortunately, antidepressants, there's no actual evidence of whether it cures depression. So, if you're taking antidepressants, but there's no cure for it, you're just treating it, right? So it's a constant medication that you have to take every day. There's no cure for it. But the bad effects that it has is that they're highly addictive. And, the side effects that it includes with it is agitation, sexual dysfunction, improper bone development, improper brain development, and gastrointestinal bleeding. All these psychoactive drugs, include antidepressants, are known to blunt our emotional responses to some extent. So what I'm saying is that, these antidepressant drugs can affect, the way we act towards people, whether we're nice to them, and then all of a sudden we're just very mean and blunt to them. This says that the FDA finally admitted that 2 out of 3 children out of every 100, 2 or 3 children out of every 100 that are taking antidepressants could expect to develop suicidal thoughts. So I mean, imagine a kid like taking these antidepressants, and instead of like helping him out, it actually, eventually, if he gets addicted to it or any other side effects, like I said, the suicidal thoughts. I mean, I don't think that's good at all, in my opinion. So, in the midst with all this evidence that I've gathered, I believe that antidepressants have a good side. I mean, my personal thoughts on antidepressants come from my parents. They both take antidepressants. And before that, their relationship was very bad. But now that they take these drugs, I've seen the positive outlook that it has given them. Therefore, I mean, I believe it is good at a certain extent if you control your dosages. But if you're in a period in your life that you cannot control your life and you're just emotionally unstable, I believe taking antidepressants is the solution. So therefore, that is my speech.
So Christian, what did you think?
Overall, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I like how he previewed what he's going to be talking about throughout the speech, and he looked like he knew what he was talking about. Looked like he practiced it 100%, and he did really good with the eye contact at the beginning, but throughout the middle, it got a little away from it a little bit. But another thing is there wasn't too much citation to the sources, verbally, and I just wanted you to go more into how that diagram worked, the one in the visual aid. But besides that, I really like this conclusion, and it's pretty good.
All right. Well, let me jump on something you just finished with, because I'm going to disagree with you on that. And everything else I thought you did a pretty good job on, but I got to give Christian a hard. You liked his conclusion. Therefore, that's my speech. That's the exit line. That just doesn't sound like it's all that stimulating. I do think, for instance, if you think of the personal experience as the conclusion of your speech, that works pretty well, because that's more interesting. Look, I have a relationship with people who use antidepressants, and it's made a difference in their lives. Here, they've been able to do this way, they've been able to function, it's solved a lot of problems. And so although sometimes there are problems that people have taking antidepressants, and I can't say that they are perfect for everyone, I do know, in fact, that for some people, it makes a difference between having a life or having no life at all. Something like that. And you got to have a better exit line, though, than the one that you have, because that just sounds like, I couldn't think of a way to get out of here, so let me do that. All right. But the other part, if that's mostly what he's talking about, I'll agree with that. The topic's clear. I do think you need to have a clear thesis statement. I also think that the preview is not as clear as Christian thought it was. There was some good statistical information at the beginning about the number of people who are suffering from depression or taking antidepressants. I think it could have been cited a little bit more, but you did provide some information there. The personal experience that you have at the end is the stuff that makes it more interesting. Like I said, I didn't think it was as well laid out as it should have been. I did hear, however, a couple of transitions, so I knew that you were moving forward from time to time. Let's see. The first visual basically is a wallpaper for the first half of your speech, is just in the background. And, to identify the topic at the beginning, I guess it's okay, but you might as well get it out of there since you're not making any reference to it. I know what he's talking about when he talks about the diagram that you have, trying to explain the relationship and how the nerve synapses are firing or not firing correctly. I do think I needed a little bit more explanation of that and how antidepressants are supposed to be kind of addressing that issue. And even though it looks pretty good size from where you were, it's not quite as big as it ought to be for the size of this room. I would think most classrooms it might have been okay. This is a slightly bigger room, a little bit wider. So if there was any way to make that image a little larger, I think it probably would have been a good thing to do at that point. All right, thank you.